So, Duet Night Abyss released recently, and what it basically is anime Warframe. And I'm here to give you my first impressions of it. So, if you don't know, I have a lot of hours into Warframe, at least multiple thousands. So, I'm going into this game with the Warframe veteran's perspective, but I will try to stay away from direct unfair comparisons. So, what do I mean by direct unfair comparisons? I'm talking about mostly stuff like content. I can't really compare the amount of content from like a 11 to 12-year-old game to a game that just released. But stuff that I can compare is like gameplay smoothness or animations or audio, stuff like that. I didn't record the tutorial and I'm not sure if you can replay it, but it basically starts you off, you pick your male or female anime character and then you load in and it immediately teaches you how to bullet jump. And when I say bullet jump, I mean, yes, the bullet jump from Warframe. As you can see on the screen here, they have imitated Warframe's bullet jump to an interesting degree. While we're on the topic of bullet jump, let's talk about the movement in general in this game. Let me start by saying it does not feel smooth and it feels really janky. It's very segmented. So in Warframe, you would bullet jump and then do a double jump and then do a roll in midair. And that's the, bread and butter movement maneuver. And all of those different techniques flow into each other perfectly. In this game, there's weird pauses in between the animations that just completely kill your momentum, which ends up making the game feel really janky and slow to play. I've experienced this in the bullet jump, I've experienced this in the dashing, I've experienced this in melee combat. So how the loadout works in this game is very, very similar to Warframe. So you have your character, you have your ranged weapon, and you have your melee weapon. And then later on you get this little pet, which is kind of like a sentinel, but they have their own like support ability and passive abilities as well. It is missing a secondary weapon option, which I am not a fan of because I love secondary weapons in Warframe, and having 3 weapons is better than 2, so yeah. So each character only has 2 abilities and a passive ability, which I think is a severe limiting factor in build crafting and in general how good the characters will feel to play. Abilities are arguably the most important thing in the entirety of Warframe's gameplay. They are what makes Warframe Warframe. And if you make a game copying Warframe and you have every character have half the amount of abilities, that just ruins the excitement I have for trying to get new characters. Like, even all the characters in the first Descendant have 4 abilities. I don't really know why they chose to go with 2 abilities in this game. I don't know if they ran out of time or they just wanted to go for a design decision, but if it was a design decision, I think it's a bad design decision. Alright, let's move on to gear systems. So, you can't have a Warframe clone without copying its modding system, can you? Nope, you can't, because they copied its modding system. Every weapon and character has 8 mod slots. Mods have different rarities and polarities. Mods have different levels and you level them up with endo. You can assign a polarity to a mod slot to make a matching polarity mod cost half its cost, aka Forma. Character stats include HP, shield, armor, max energy, skill damage, skill range, skill duration, and skill efficiency. Sound familiar? Weapon stats include damage, crit chance, crit damage, fire rate, status chance, and even multi-shot. There's also mods that increase the explosive AoE of your explosive weapons by a flat amount, aka Prime Firestorm. There's also mods that increase the melee range of your melee weapons by a flat amount, aka Prime Reach. There's also mods that increase your crit chance and status chance depending on how high your combo bar is, aka Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds. I'm getting into the really specific nitty-gritty stuff, but those are just some examples of how much they copied Warframe's mods. And after saying all that, I'm not necessarily saying them copying the mod system is a bad thing. At the end of the day, when you're trying to make a game that imitates the game that set the example, you kind of have to follow the example. Now, you may have your reservations about whether the Warframe mod system in the first place is good or bad. I won't get into that other than saying I like the Warframe modding system. So let's move on to the missions, how you get resources or how you get new gear. So a lot of the missions in this game are some variation of Warframe missions. I won't say all or most because I've not played every mission type, but so far I've found capture, exterminate, defense, and survival. So what I actually think is pretty cool is you can target farm specific mission types for specific rewards. For example, you can farm the Hedge and Termination missions for character and weapon XP booklets. Or you can go farm Expulsion for mods. Or you can farm Exploration and Mediation for weapon and character ascension materials. One of the downsides I can see to this system though is if you want to, for example, farm a bunch of mods that you want, you have to play Exterminate over and over and over and over again until you get all the mods you want. And that can get a little repetitive. But like, I mean, Warframe also has repetitiveness, so, you know, it's part of the genre. So the basic mission seems to be how you get all of your basic upgrade materials to upgrade your gear. How do you get the gear? Well, of course, they have void fissures. Now, I've not interacted with this system that much, but what it seems to be is you got these things called Scarlet Letters, which are basically void relics, and they each have the blueprint and the parts of the character or the weapon you want in them. And, you know, when you complete the mission with the relic equipped, you have a chance to get one of the items in there. I will say, I do like how all the different parts of the weapons or the different things you need for the Warframes aren't split up into different relics. They're all in the same relic for that specific character or Warframe. That makes farming for a specific thing a lot less of a headache to manage. You also don't really have to farm for the relic itself. You farm for the resources to buy the relic, which I also think is not a bad system. Now, I don't know how hard it is to get the resources to buy the relics. That might become a pain point later on, but we'll get to that as I play the game more. I just hope the farming for gear in this game is not even half as bad as it was in the first Descendant, because farming for gear in that game was complete and utter garbage. Although I do have my worries, because it seems like the only way to get gear in this game is to farm it through the Void Relic system, which is how the first Descendant worked, and that just completely kills my motivation to farm for gear because it is so repetitive. Like, imagine if the only way you can get any weapons in Warframe was to farm Void Relics, and that's how you get every single weapon and every single Warframe. That's the first Descendant, and that is kind of looking like what this game is too, but, you know, we'll have to see. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about is the gameplay feel during combat. I don't think the combat feels nearly as good as it does in Warframe. And that comes from things like sound design, ability and weapon effects, how the weapon feels to shoot, how the melee weapon feels to swing, and even stuff like damage numbers. Like, the general combat feel doesn't feel as meaty and impactful as it does in Warframe. Warframe has some amazing sound design, some of the best sound design I've ever heard in any video game ever. So it may be an unfair comparison, but I do think they can do a lot better sound design than this. Just listen to what the gameplay sounds like. It's so muted.
Come closer.
Combine the lacking sound design with the lacking visual effects, in my opinion, it makes the gameplay feel really, well, lacking. Oh yeah, one more thing that I actually wanted to talk about, so I guess this is the last thing that I wanted to talk about. The upgrade grind in this game seems very, very, very worrying. So every character and weapon have their own level, and they start off with 4 mod slots. The max level cap initially is level 20. After you hit level 20, you have to ascend the weapon or character, which uses materials, and that will increase the cap to 30, and it will give you another mod slot. And once you reach 30, you ascend again using more materials, and you get another mod slot, you get to level 40. I think the cap is 80, so you have to ascend like, I don't know, 5 times or whatever, and it takes materials every single time. So that's a pretty huge material grind from my eyes. I've not fully grinded a character up to max, obviously, right now, but I can see that grind being pretty annoying for every single character. That's not all, though. You thought that was all. Not only do you have to upgrade your character and ascend them, you have to upgrade every skill of that character up to 10 times, and every time you upgrade them, it uses materials. So, the passive, the ultimate, and the ability. 10 times each for every character. That's not all though. You thought that was all. Each character has what's called Intron levels, and they're basically ascendancy nodes from Path of Exile. Each Intron level gives huge bonuses and buffs to your character's abilities, and may even give them new effects, like for example 30% less damage taken from enemies affected by the poison of the ability. Each character has 6 Intron levels, and to upgrade a level, you have to consume what is basically the materials required to build the character in the first place. So in order to fully max out the Intron level of each character, you have to effectively farm the character 6 additional times. That enough grinding for you? Obviously, I've not interacted with this system fully, so I don't know how bad the grind is to get these materials, so I can't really say exactly how bad it is, but looking at it from where I am right now, it is very worrying. Alright, that covers about all I wanted to cover regarding my first impressions of this game. Now, if you were to ask me the question, is this game worth playing? That's a hard question to answer right now because I've not played this game that long, but what I can say is if you're a Warframe player and you're looking to play this game and see if this game is worth playing over Warframe, I don't really know if it is, because Warframe is just that good of a product. And if you're invested into Warframe, I don't really think that you'll have time to grind both of these games, I'm gonna be honest. But hey, if you're burned out of Warframe and you just want another Warframe-like game to farm, then sure, go ahead, you can farm this game. Or if you prefer playing as anime waifus instead of literal gods that can tear the space-time continuum, then sure, you can play this game as well. If you've listened to me yap this long and you're still here listening to me yap, I greatly appreciate it. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. I'll have to see if I like this game to see if I make more videos on it, but yeah, other than that, subscribe if you like my content, and I will see you in the next one.